You should have been, yeah. I believe so.
Well, there's nobody in the waiting room.
Let's see.
Oh,
Here he is. He's in.
Right. Ray, hello.
hi Joshua, how are you?
I'm doing swell. Great to see you again.
Good to see you.
Welcome. So tonight we have right before you some of the Sierra Angel members here to do our little 30-minute DD Q&A. So the process, just to kind of give you some idea, we'll record this. We'll send it out to the rest of our members. Afterwards, we will share a Google Sheet with you where we can ask some questions kind of asynchronously. Um, and from there, we'll take a couple days to decide as a group, and then can I get back to you with next steps?
Okay, great.
So with that, if you want to just kind of reintroduce yourself and give us the details of your race.
Sure. My name is Ray Shealy, CEO of Inneractiv. We just actually had a board meeting today, and we decided to take up the round from 2 million raised because we only had about 150,000 left in this round. We've decided to take it from 2 million to 3 million. And because we're already engaged with you guys, we're not going to necessarily do this for anybody else that wants to get in this, other than there's like one other group, but we have a 25% warrant coverage as part of this. And that was kind of how we were already selling this to you. But if we bring in other people, we're not going to give them that warrant coverage because it's kind of de-risked from when we first started this raise. So anyways, we have plenty of room left if you guys are interested in doing more than 150. Our pre-money valuation is 10.6 million on this raise. It's a preferred shares. We've got the co-leads in this round are Blue Ventures out of DC, who put in 250K. North Coast Ventures out of Cleveland put in 250K. Rev One Ventures out of Columbus put in a 350K. And Bold Ventures is about ready to finalize their deal to put in 250K. So we've had a little over, it's like 1.1 million or 1.2 million that's put in by VC firms, and the rest has been put in by angels. And we've got a couple other angel groups like yourselves interested to invest right now as well. And then we've got another couple other VC firms that'll write like, $500,000 to $1 million checks taking a look at us right now. So that's the quick update on the raise.
Okay, fantastic. I'll start us off with a question, and then we'll kind of open it up to the group. Um, you'd mentioned when we were just kind of speaking about it a little bit. We talked about cash in the bank, which I think was around 250K. Is that
Yep. Yep.
right? And burn was
Burns about our payroll is about 100K a month, and then we're burning somewhere between 80K a month usually on top of that with expenses. But now we just heard from Alorica is our biggest customer. We're going to go direct with them now. They came to us and want to go direct, and they want to expand our relationship. They have 16,500 endpoints that they're using with us, and we just provided 3 and 4 year renewal pricing to them. So I want to get them locked in for 3 or 4 years, which is good. We're actually raising the price a little bit, so we're going to generate about a 5 to 6K more a month as part of that renewal. And then, we're still in good graces with Redapt, their reseller. The customer just wanted out of it. But then we also provided pricing that's kind of graduated for Alorica because they want to add it on to their retail customers as well as some of their banking customers. So it's generally when they start to get up around 30,000 seats, which they're at 16.5 now, we get them down just below $2 a seat per month. So that's kind of a good way to, not have to do a lot of sales to increase some of our seats. So that we expect is going to start to take off in the next 3 or 4 months.
Hey Ray,
fantastic.
what company is that with the 30,000 seats and what department and what use case?
Sure. Alorica, Alorica. They basically they're a BPO around the world. They've got 100,000 employees. They outsource mainly for us right now. They use us for Verizon and T-Mobile. I think they
Oh,
used to have AT&T, but I'm not sure that they still have AT&T, but they've got Goldman Sachs. They've got a bunch of financial services and retail firms that they do outsourced kind of back office, critical they have high turnover where people are dealing with a lot of sensitive data. So that's why they
Yeah.
need us.
Right. Makes sense. Okay. On the valuation, the $10.6 million valuation, you're raising $3 million now. That's like almost 30%. That's actually a very nice valuation. Why the good deal, Ray? Why are you being so nice to us? I
That's
mean,
funny.
is there a bridge? Is there
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
what are you trying to get to? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
So,
you guys got revenues right now. We're about
yeah, we have
600K.
600. We did
Yeah.
631,000 in revenue last year.
Yeah.
I think it's the fact that not only is it a hot space, I think we are unique and differentiated, and then we have, you know, we've got some product market fit going on because we have big name customers. We've got Hitachi, and some of the other ones. So I think that's why the valuation is where it is. And we haven't had, that hasn't been a lot of pushback. Now, keep in mind, John, there's 25% warrant coverage too. So if you invest more than 250K, you get 25% warrant coverage in this round.
Right. Yeah.
So that helps out a little bit.
I saw that. Yeah. So the product, I like the product from a cybersecurity standpoint. I think it's great, especially now with the people, it's copying and pasting very easily into AI and all that stuff. But so from an enterprise standpoint, it's great. I'm sure the CFO and CEO loves it. They want to track everybody's productivity and make sure they don't copy and paste or sensitive stuff onto whatever. But from the user standpoint, the adoption is kind of problematic, right? I think we talked about Big Brother issues last time. Is this going
Mhm.
to be primarily in these kind of sensitive, high-risk data environments, or can it be a general AI, I mean, a
Yeah.
general cybersecurity passive device like a firewall, but you have to install it on every single device, requires user permission and all that, right?
So almost every company, has a way of doing electronic software distribution or just software distribution from some central, whether they use Tanium or they use some kind of distribution platform. So they just have to provide permissions in Microsoft Defender or whatever, software distribution platform or security that they have, which authorizes us because we just install, in Task Manager, we're just a process. So that's how our agent runs. So the privacy thing, John, is very interesting because first, when I first joined the company 18 months ago, well, the key things that's a key asset of our company, our moat is really around the deep signaling that we get off of the endpoint. And then how you make that deep signaling useful. And what we did, we encrypted it too, so we can actually, our micro agent has a very small hit to the endpoint, where a lot of like force point, proof point, other people that are doing insider would slow down the CPU by 50%. So
Oh,
because
well.
because we're encrypted, we can store data, and we're not always hitting the endpoint, bringing everything back to the cloud. Although we bring the interesting things come back to the cloud, but our agent still runs locally on that endpoint. And if somebody goes offline, it's still collecting data. And then when we come back online, we'll pull up the interesting stuff. Now, the privacy versus, the company's right to know. I like the guy at Hitachi. He always talks about it. He's like, everybody's concerned about privacy until something goes wrong and then nobody cares about it. Because then we have all
Yeah,
the
right.
forensics of what really happened.
Yeah.
So we tried, and we just went through this with, we've got a customer in California. California has some special laws around privacy and what you can do on the endpoint. And we do basically jailhouse attorney and kind of advise them on how to think about some things. Obviously, that's all on their own and their legal opinions. But we really try to walk a fine line between balancing the privacy of the employee and the company's right to know. And how we do that and how it lives and breathes in the software is we redact a lot of the information in the software. So unless you're a certain security level, you can't even see who the user is of that machine. There's 4 different security levels on how you can access this information. And that's what we've learned from Hitachi and other big customers using it. HR was kind of complaining that the IT guys could see all this. And so,
Yeah,
we
right.
added all that in. That's how it's done.
All right.
And then when you talk about the employee being concerned. So John, if you were trying, I think I used Fight Club with you guys, Project Mayhem is in the movie Fight Club. Nobody's supposed to talk about Project Mayhem. But
Yeah.
John, if you went to ChatGPT and you started typing in Project Mayhem because you're going to do something with ChatGPT, and that was in our character strings of something you're not supposed to be talking about, that's where we could block you and say, hey, this is against company policy. Or we
Yeah.
could put up a window and say, John, please tell us why you want to talk about Project Mayhem because that is against company policy. But because you're an executive, we'll go ahead and let you do that. So we have all these risk groups that we built that are built into the system. So depending on what your level, your department, or what your access is, determines what security gets applied to your use of AI. So executives might have wider guardrails on their use of AI, but somebody in customer support or, some service organization, we might get real narrow on how they can use AI.
Mm. And is that all customizable within your platform?
Yep.
Different groups have different different guardrails and different
It's totally
workflow.
customizable. And what we try to do, I mean, anytime you have something like that, you can't, then it can become analysis paralysis and it can be like an atomic bologna slicer,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So what we do is we run it for a week or two and we get basically goes into learn mode. And then we come back and make recommendations on how risks should be scored in the enterprise. And we just are rolling out right now auto configuration of risk groups. So if you use the same 4 applications that Joshua uses, probably should be in the same risk group because your work function's the same, even though you might be in different departments. So we're
Right.
automating the creation of those risk groups, and we try to get to value as quickly as we can with how the system is set up. But if you want to have special risk just for John and what he's doing, then you can go in and we'll recommend, but you can go in and dial your risk, way high or way low with like a whole bunch of different customizable settings, and you can actually write code in there if you want to get really particular with some if-thens and everything else on your work behavior and activities.
Mm.
But it's not overanalyzed. It's basically it rolls up. But if you want to get crazy, you can do it.
Right, yeah. For really high risk group people, do you have special process and AI and machine learning to detect if there's a nefarious activity that's happening? Can you stop Edward Snowden from stealing all that stuff if they had your software?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not necessarily under NDA, but one of the large government resellers is looking at putting us into a SCIF 2 environment in DC, which is exactly that type of a thing.
Yeah, this would
Um,
be perfect for that
yeah,
kind of environment.
well, they like it because the one that they have right now slows down the machine by more than 50%.
Oh,
So
I
that's
see.
where our efficient agent is a really good fit for that.
Hmm.
Could you go back to the first part of that question? Because I got off on the NSA thing there or whatever, but the first part of your question was
So you have different process and different ways of detecting
Mhm.
nefarious activity, malicious
Yep,
activity. Instead
yep.
of a clear violation, maybe it's somebody's doing some kind of stuff that over time it's a clear violation. I mean, is there that's that kind of intelligence built into the system?
That's exactly how it works, John. So we do risk scoring. So if
No.
you access, like a good example would be if you get online right now and you go to the Tor browser, we're going to say, okay, well, we set that with the company. We make recommendations, but we might score that as 15 points of risk. And then we see you open up, WordPad on the side, and then we see you copying and pasting some character strings that have PHI, PII, PCI, some kind of sensitive data in there. Your
Right.
risk score just went way up. And what we do is then we stitch together, I think you saw in the demo, an MPEG of your actions during that time. And so a lot of the insider software historically over alerts or over alarms. So if you access Tor browser, it would just create an alarm. And security analysts don't like that because it's just a bunch of noise. So we do
Right.
is we stitch it all together and look at your behavior over a certain period of time, score it, and then that's what gets flagged as a risky event. The other thing that we do, which we have auto configuration on, and this is in our AI usage and control module, which again is just been a build and an addition quickly on top of what we already had. But we look at the trinity between the identity of the user, what domains they're accessing, and what processes they're running. And so, for example, if you go to, we have a curated list. We've done this manually. So we curate AI domains and AI processes. And if we find one of our customers uses a domain or a process that we haven't identified before, we use an AI to go out and determine what that is. Is it an agentic AI? Is it generative AI? Is that for the same with the process? And if we don't know what it is, then it'll come to our team and we'll actually manually maintain that because there's a lot, there's going to be lines blurring between generative AI and agentic AI and all these
Right.
things
Yeah.
out there. And so we want to kind of keep this curated. So we're watching all of that risk, we're scoring all that risk, and then we're maintaining as AI evolves. I want to have control, use AI as much as you can to maintain what the AI really is, but then also we'll involve people to kind of curate it so customers know that when they come to us, we're going to have a very up-to-date catalog on all of this risk.
Yeah, makes sense. Good.
All right. What else? All right, I got one. How much has been raised to date, Ray? Has there been a previous raise to this last round?
Yeah, before I got there, Joshua, they had raised, I want to say like close to $6 million over some period of time, probably 4 or 5 years. Um, and that was some of that was is converted in this round to this is one of the things we worked with Blue Ventures on, is they didn't want that to sit as debt on the balance sheet because it was sitting on the debt on the balance sheet. So it converted to equity, but it's a class of equity that is only it's like a liquidity preference. So it doesn't get to participate in an upside beyond when they get their money back, and there's no interest rate on it. So there's an investor. If you go on our cap table, there's an investor named Jay Janathan. That's mainly what his holdings are around. And then there's also the Wilcox family office. That's how their main holdings are set up in the cap table.
You'll be able to share that chapter with us.
Yep. Yep. If I
Yeah,
haven't,
that's
for
awesome.
sure. Yep. Could definitely do that.
Okay, great.
What is the what are the rest of the um preferred benefits in this round? Is there a liquidation preference? Is it a
Yep.
multiple? What are the other things that are in this round?
There's, I guess, really three main things, Jeff. The first thing is liquidity preference. The second thing is a 25% warrant coverage for investors
Yeah.
who invest over 250K. And then if we don't hit our ARR clip level of $1 million by, I think it's July 31st, then you get another 25% warrant coverage. So you get 50% warrant coverage. So there's a big penalty if we don't hit our sales numbers.
And where are you now with regard to the $1 million
We
milestone?
are right about, let's see, we're going to 250, 240. We are probably at 650 of the million.
Okay.
So we got a shot at it. It's going to be close though, because,
Mhm.
one of the things we're really looking at on the sales side now are getting in with these MSSPs, managed security service providers, or MSPs focused on security, because we believe the mid-market is a perfect fit for us. Blue Ventures actually had a really good, had an investment with a company called Huntress, which has done really well with this. And so that's one that they're trying to get us to focus on. So that, I'm off doing that. I've got a couple, we've just signing up RSM McGladdery. And if you know who RSM is, they're like an accounting firm, out of Chicago. They have a managed services offering, and we think they're perfect for us. So we're trying to focus on those types of folks to get, sales humming without spending a lot of money on a direct sales team. But
Yeah.
we're still doing
And
some, I just hired a direct sales guy 2 weeks ago, and I'm also today brought on a CRO, kind of a fractional CRO that Blue Ventures has used in a couple of their early stage cyber companies. I like the guy a lot. We hit it off, and he's going to do a little 4 to 5 week engagement with me to help get some direct sales and kind of just some basic overall things nailed down, since I've been trying to do most of it myself while I'm raising capital and doing everything else.
okay. So you raised 6 million before, you're raising 3 million now. You've got a $10.6 million pre. So it sounds like when I do look at your cap table, there's going to be a lot of the company has been sold. What percentage is left after this round for
Uh,
you and everybody else
well,
in the company?
so what's that? Yeah, good question. So,
Mhm.
I've got, let's see. If you go through the cap table, what's basically happened is there was two companies that were merged together. One was called For Privacy, and the other was called On Guard Systems, and that happened in January of 2024. I joined as CEO in July of 2024, and basically what's happened is a lot of those shareholders that were in the earlier deal are just getting pushed down, or they're just getting diluted. So the the big holders in the cap table are Jay Janathan at like 20%, the Wilcox family office at like 10%. Jim Mazotis is the co-founder, he's at 10%. Eric Parker is the CTO, he's at 5%, and I'm at 10%. I just bought some shares with a note to the company on the 409A valuation. So I would say, probably half the company is owned by, that group, which are some of the investors in the principals of the company. And then the new investors are going to own most of it. And I would say probably the old investors are going to be hanging on to 10 or 20%.
So the six
And how
million
much?
dollar you mentioned, that went into Interactive or the previous companies?
That was the previous companies. Yeah.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
kind of
So
a
that was debt
Interactive,
hanging
a recap
around.
of the other guys anyways, right?
Yep, that was debt
Okay.
hanging around from prior before this came about because the one company, On Guard Systems, had the insider technology. They had Hitachi, but I wouldn't say it was enterprise quality code. For Privacy had the encryption coding team, which were solid developers. And so what they did is they took the encryption guys and had them rewrite the code base for what was On Guard Systems, and that's Interactive.
Okay. But Interactive is only raising this $2 to $3 million for the first time, right? Okay, got it. All right.
Yep, this is the first institutional round. That was one of the things, what I got hired for was to bring in institutional money and get it going.
Right, okay.
Okay. And how much of the company is left after you do this round? What's not owned by investors?
Boy, Jeff, I haven't thought a lot about that, to be honest with you here. I'm just focused on growing it, but
Okay.
we've got a good relationship with our shareholders. I think they knew that For Privacy wasn't quite making it, but had good technology. And then, the On Guard Systems guys with the insider, knew that needed to be upgraded. So it was a good merger for all the shareholders, but they just don't own a lot of it now.
Okay. So they've been squashed. And
Pretty
so is
much.
is 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 Claude going to help you or hurt you?
Claude?
Claude the all of the rage over the last weekend. Claude
Yeah,
with
I mean,
an
I think it's going to help
open
us.
Claude or malt bot or whatever they've turned it
Yeah,
into.
all these things help us really because you got to have more, governance and control on AI. And I think it particularly if when before we release this product, Jeff, when I was talking insider and some companies, I mean, even though we had good technology, some people had already made investments or they just didn't want to get into the privacy thing. And now with I mean, every conversation I have where I'm with somebody, everybody gets the problem. It's the gold rush of AI right now. And that's one of the reasons what we talked about in our board meeting today is why we want to take in another million is we want to grow, and get that market share while the market's hot. It's time to get in. So that's why we're pushing.
Great. All right. Thanks.
Mhm.
And what's the nature of the IP, Ray? It's all owned by the company. There's no license from shareholders or founders or whatever.
Yeah, we have some trademarks, John, and we have the
Well, the
other thing I would
trademarks
say
doesn't matter.
IP wise, we have some, yeah, we have there's some patents that the company got through the For Privacy acquisition on encryption, which are pretty hard to get encryption patents.
Oh, yeah.
So that's really where I would say our IP or our moat to protect the protection around this is the deep signaling that we get off of the endpoint and how we do that with a process called hooking.
And
We do
that's patented?
that's not patented.
Oh, okay.
Some of the encryption things that we do are patented. Okay. But you know, the encryption, if others try to do what we do, because we have so much sensitive data on everything that an employee does throughout the day,
Yeah.
it needs to be encrypted. Because if you're sitting there and that data is at rest and it's not encrypted, there's a lot of sensitive data that you have.
Yep.
So that was the whole thing behind it. And that's also opened up, some of the three-letter agency deals that were in the, early to mid stages. We got a POV going on at an Air Force base right now, that's just about ready to kick off. It's been hung up for a while, but it's about ready to go.
Mhm.
So we need to have encryption for that.
Yep.
So IP is really no real hard and fast patents other than that encryption patent that Eric, our CTO, has that the company has, and then
Right.
it's
Okay.
the moat around how we get the deep signaling
Right.
and then how we use it in our techniques with our sensors and how we do the risk scoring to make sure because basically what we do is we find the needles in the haystack, the shadow AI,
That's correct. Yeah.
things like that. Yeah.
Danny, I saw you come off mute.
Yeah, that kind of answered my question, but I guess I have a bit of a follow-up to it, right? So I just want to understand, like, this is obviously a pretty dynamic market. The whole AI, it's emerging, the governance things are coming out constantly. So regarding the moat that you were kind of touching on, it's kind of what you do with your data that sets Interactive apart, right? So I just want to know that with some of these major companies that have AI agents, think, your OpenAI, your Perplexity, your Anthropic, even Microsoft with Copilot, right? Or Apple Intelligence, whatever. Um, as security and these risks become more prevalent in the market, how is what Interactive does unique to, like, let's say a company like Microsoft with Copilot, right, is used in big organizations. How could what sets you apart from them if they go to bake something like this into their stack? So let's say a company buys, like, Microsoft license enterprise for their entire company, and they're able to then tweak, like Microsoft's AI people make it so that you can tweak, what's actually accept, like it'll red flag it itself, basically, rather than having to pull in a third party like Interactive.
Yeah.
As because they have oodles of money, to develop and research this hooking concept. I feel like I'm just curious how you plan to navigate the
Yeah.
potential for these enterprise stacks to just kind of bake this concept into their own product.
It's a great question, Danny. I mean, Microsoft already has a product called Purview that is a very lightweight agent on the DLP side. So we get asked questions a lot of times on, well, we already have Microsoft Purview. Why do we need you? Well, the answer is everybody else has a proprietary solution to AI. So in most companies, like what's happening today, we had a meeting with Oracle last week, which, was very high up. And in that particular case, and this is with one of their head security guys who are the guy that's on our advisor or on our board knows. And, when they get into this, they start, first off, they look and they say, well, we're mainly Windows, so that's a good fit. But they know that things are going to change. And no matter how much these big companies try to like say, okay, well, we're Chat GPT, we're doing a corporate enterprise license. So we know that Chat GPT is going to get all our data. But there's still all kinds of pockets in the company where people are trying to go to other sites. And that's where companies will come in and then they firewall them off. Well, employees are pretty smart. They try to work around that a lot, right? Because everybody kind of has their own AI that they like. So it's just the classic proprietary, thing that always comes about the battles. Remember the battles of the browsers with Mosaic and all the browsers back in the day. We are browser agnostic. We are, we don't care. You don't have to change anything about how you use AI. You don't have to put any plugins in, anything different. We run on any browser. So we kind of are we kind of support the freedom of AI usage, not proprietary usage. And how we do that is, with our techniques on how we integrate with the OS. So if they want to, if Microsoft wanted to come out with a new product, I mean, because they're, they're kind of building in Copilot. I mean, there's still, hundreds of other AI sites, both generative and agentic, that people are using and going to. So we kind of support the freedom of the AI movement, but we put guardrails and control it. That's kind of the philosophy, Danny. And, if somebody wants to go, some of these big companies, if there's like a financial institution and they only go Chat GPT and that's all they want to do, okay, great. Let's move on to the thousands of other companies that are out there that have a more open policy towards AI. So it's a good question. I don't think that we're hurting because of it, because I think there's going to be a lot more. I mean, AI, as you know, is a huge revolution now, and there's going to be so many different sites and things that continue to evolve, and we're the platform that allows companies to safely navigate it all.
Yeah, okay. I like that. I mean, I personally use, a couple of different agents. I think different agents are better for different things. So I'm not going to pay for an enterprise stack for 100 different, types of agents. So I understand what you're saying there.
Yep. Yep. Good question. Thanks.
Those guardrails you talk about, Ray, are those somebody's got to define those guardrails, or is it automatically generated by your system depending on contents in the enterprise or whatever?
Yeah. So when we go into that learning mode for the first week or two, we come back and we would recommend to you, John, based on the behavior that we're seeing in your company, we come back with just a list of all the domains, all the processes and things that we say, and we say, they can accept, reject, or modify our recommendations on how risk is scored. And then for the next step then is setting up the risk groups and determining what identities go into what risk groups, right? And so once we have that risk group configured, then we can go in and we can modify, different risks because of behaviors that we see going forward. So we kind of dial it up and dial it down based on user behavior and activity. And then that's also where I think I mentioned earlier how we use some AI to determine, like if we get an unknown process or an unknown domain, then we're going to look that up and kind of curate and maintain that for the company. So it's really up to the company then to decide, do we want to have wide guardrails on the use of AI? Do we want to have narrow? And if they want to block, you know, 10 agentic sites, we can do that. That's easy to do.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
not a problem. If we want to warn you to say that's not an approved, site, but I'll still allow you to go through, that's kind of all the tweaking that happens.
Right. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ray.
Yep, you bet.
That brings us to our time. So, quick summary: we will record all of this, send it out to the rest of the angels, and kind of solicit feedback. We will share a Google sheet with you where some questions will come in, allow us to get questions asked asynchronously, and then yeah, we should move pretty quickly. Hopefully, have a next steps and answer for you by end of this week, early next week.
That'd be great. And what do you guys normally do for check size, or kind of what's your range normally? If I was to think about what you guys might be interested in doing.
Absolutely. So yeah, one of the questions actually we should have asked is, what's the minimum to go direct on your cap table?
For right, 50K is what we've been doing minimum.
Okay. Yeah. So we solicit out to the other angels and basically give them the option to either go direct, or if they want to come in with smaller checks, we usually set up an SPV. So
Okay,
that's kind of how I'll let it. And then the total amount raised will just be, what those two groups end up being.
gotcha. So could you range anywhere from 50 to 500K kind of a thing normally, or what do you usually
Yeah,
do?
I'd say that's pretty accurate. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for your time, everybody. It was great, wonderful questions, and hopefully we can get you in our cap table. Take care.
So,
Have a good
thank you,
night.
Ray.
Thanks.
Great seeing you. Cool. Now we go around the horn. People indicate their possible interests, thoughts, or opinions on the topics.
It might be hard to do because we have a much smaller group now than we did when we started. So I don't know how much interest we're going to be able to garner off of this. I think but we're going to have to get something to figure out, do we do due diligence on these guys or not? So
Yeah.
so you know, Maggie can speak for the Sailing Family Trust.
I can.
Whoa.
I usually buy, regular stocks, and I decide if there's something I'm excited about to invest in. I'm usually not shy about it. I kind of like all of these guys. Certainly, the last guys are really polished, presenter and CFO. I don't know this market. Are there other incumbents that are working on the same stuff?
Would you want us to do more due diligence on them?
Yes. They seem to have some traction, so I do like that about them.
I worry about the last guy's cap table. It sounds like it's a mess.
Oh,
It's
oh boy, oh boy.
it really could be with all that acquisition and trying to buy people out.
I don't know. These guys from Columbus, I don't know. These guys from Columbus, Ohio, they're always trying to do something.
Are they now? Let us not besmirch all of Ohio.
We got a lot of Ohio ties on this call. Lyncham's going into OSU as well.
Okay. It's the Ohio connection.
Our native son, Jeff.
Right. Aditi, I just don't know about her ability to run the business, and I would look into CP pretty closely, whether I would consider that one or not. And then Robert, yeah, it's medical. What does Jeff think of that one?
Jeff Weir?
Yeah.
Sounds like, oh, here he comes.
Which part? The
Lyncham.
I was gonna ask my buddies that are anesthesiologists about it. I mean, I could see use case scenarios for sure, but and if the margin's that good on post-op surgeries, then yeah, I mean, surgical clinics or outpatient surgery centers or whatever would all be good case scenarios for it. One of the things that I didn't ask or whatever was if there was applications for like remote patient monitoring for like the um, Medicaid or Medicare Advantage patients and things like that, which I think would be a huge market for monitoring something like that as well. But it seemed like it was all just mostly post-surgery or pre-ICU.
So no opinion. You're just gonna wait until you talk to your buds.
No, I thought it was good. I mean, I think it would definitely reduce costs and stuff like that. I mean, definitely in the post-op, I don't really necessarily seeing physicians use it on the floor per se, because I mean, most of them would just be watching like pulse ox and things like that, and taking blood gases regularly to decide that. And then, if they were worried about them being on vent, they would probably put them on a BiPAP or CPAP beforehand, or just, raise the nasal cannula airflow all the way up before any of that. And then they would probably transfer it to an ICU or under a pulmonologist or something like that. Because
So
they
there may not be a
usually,
need.
yeah, I mean, usually they'll just write them off and say, I don't really want to manage this patient here, unless that's what they want to do. And then they'll transfer them to ICU unless it's full.
Cool.
It's
Okay.
quirky.
Well, yeah, I'm interested in the first two companies. I think the third company, that cap table. As soon as I tried not to give a reaction when you said 6 million raised previously, but oof.
Going to be a
I
And
messy.
they are burning through cash, and that's a long sales cycle.
yeah, I'm the same opinion I was on the Thursday night. Yeah, Thursday night. The first two are interesting. I think due diligence is needed. Something I found was interesting with the healthcare one, because I quite like the idea of it. I obviously don't know enough about the industry to know the background of that it's going to work. Is the machines that they use in ER? He said it was only $30,000, but he's factoring they're going to make $50,000 a year using his machine, his approach per bed. So become curious. He said that the nurses were different, but like if I was a hospital, I'd be thinking you can train nurses for less than $50,000 a year, right? So, but I think really understanding that sales cycle, really understanding how they're going to get it in and convince nurses and doctors and hospitals to pay for it. Um, and that's something I just don't have any experience with. I like the projected company, but I think Maggie's right. We need to really make sure those people can execute. I'm not as experienced as the other angels here in this particular area, but I'm really impressed with how far they've gotten so far. Actually, for someone from a uni background to get this kind of presentation together has actually impressed me. For Inneractiv, I think the best way to describe it is it feels like a feature, not a business. I think the AI is really exciting, but it's not an AI product. It's a data loss prevention product, right? It detects it only detects one very specific kind of data loss prevention. And I'm sitting here, and again, as I said on the Thursday, I worked for a company that used very, very similar technology called ActiveTrack. I had a very small exit on that. They've raised some more money since. So I'm somewhat familiar with the space. You can build the technology that they have without a lot of difficulty. They keep on talking about encryption, but they haven't defined what makes encryption special, because there might be something there, but they're gonna have to explain why they think encryption's special, because pretty much everything's encrypted these days, and that's like 5 minutes work. So they've got a patent on it. What are they saying? Because the guy couldn't explain that. But I'm even just doing basic math. If they're charging $2 per seat per month, even if they somehow hand wave get to 1 million seats and sell to a million seats with this stuff, that's only a $2 million a month sort of revenue stream, 20-ish million a year. You're going to get a 20 to 30x on that, but you're not going to get like a 50x on that. And as you do that, you're going to see a lot more competition. You're going to see a lot more people sort of adding this feature to their products. So I'm really curious if they're actually going to get an exit out of it. I also think only having $600,000 revenue at this point, they really have to explain that story, because it sounds like they spent a lot of time. They've got two different businesses, they've merged, so on and so forth. They've raised a lot of money. They're in the process of raising more money now. And even if we treat it as a brand new startup, it's not a lot of revenue for the valuation.
All right, so are we due diligencing all three or first two? Or are we just doing diligencing, or are we waiting to hear back from our locals? Probably that.
If somebody
That's
wants to make a
probably
case for the third, I like the first two as well, and I'll just give a couple quick value points on the STL. Um, I love that she came from Disney Imagineering, working at a giant in the belly of the beast and seeing an opportunity and coming out and building it. And they haven't had to raise that much money for how far they've gotten. I love the routes that they've taken. Not a lot of projection mapping companies or entertainment tech in general is looking at a path of non-dilutive capital and federal contracts um, from the government. And I think inflection point market timing wise, like that industry is just, I mean, it's been growing for 5 years or so, but it's only going to get exponentially larger in the next many years. I'm keen on them. If anybody wants to make a case for the third one or is interested in the third one, usually we say if there's three folks that are interested in further diligence, that's kind of the tipping point that we'll do it.
I think that cap table is a non-starter or whatever. I think it stops it immediately.
all right. Well, we'll do this. We'll put out the recordings and then solicit feedback on interest, and in 48 hours we can let the founders know.
Yeah. And if you want, I mean, if he seemed willing to share his cap table, maybe we just ask him for that one thing.
Yeah.
And send us the cap table so we get a better idea of what the ownership situation looks like, and then we can decide. Because if it's as messy as I suspect that it is, John's right. It's like even if we liked it, it would probably be almost impossible to make a deal.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Our first Monday night due diligence call.
Good job.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We stayed on time, so very good.
Yeah, we'll clean up a few of these spots and we'll get it going next time. Cool. Awesome. Thanks everybody.
All
Okay,
right. We'll
so
see
long.
where we go from here.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys.
So long.